Is there like a fire department we could call? Because I'm on fire here.
I've never
my
felt
lips,
like
my lips are on fire. I feel like I put on the wrong lipstick.
It burns to breathe.
Yeah, my ear. I've never felt like ears that melt.
This is
Welcome to Lev HaTorah Hot Ones. I just want to preface this by saying I have a horrible spice tolerance. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
How's your spice tolerance?
I guess we're going to find out what my spice tolerance is. I am Ashkenaz. Two Ashkenaz parents, grandparents, Poland, Ashkenaz. So I'm a little nervous. But I do like spicy. Living in Israel, taking the Sephardi customs, trying, hopefully, and hopefully I'll be able to succeed. My name is Rav Hartstein. I am kind of a Rebbi here. I volunteer my time in the mornings teaching each of the Shiurim Business Halacha, as well as the Shiur Bet, some life lessons, and my famous lessons from the Lev, which there'll be a link here that you can sign up for on WhatsApp. I need to plug something. I don't have a book or anything. So yeah. But yeah, I look forward to this. Eating is my thing. This is my morning job. I don't volunteer my whole life. I have a real job as CEO of Five Star Caterers in America. Call us, 1-800 no. And that's what I do from 4 o'clock and on. So I have the great zchus of being able to teach students here in Lev HaTorah. And actually, because I don't get paid, I can say whatever I want, which I probably can do here as well. And yeah, it's a great zchus, and it's a great zchus to be here involved in food, as I do know a lot about food.
I'm Ronnie Delman from Columbus, Ohio.
I'm Dani Meir from West Hempstead, New York.
We're students at Lev HaTorah, and we're going to be interviewing.
Okay.
All right, so we jump into
Start? Sure.
All right, first sauce.
You start.
So I just drink it? I drink it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, you actually start with this one in your...
there's a shiloh whether or not you're allowed to answer brachos. So don't answer amen to this, but I just want to show everybody they're choshes. Their Rav Hartstein doesn't make brachos, so I'll make a bracha, which I don't know what's ikar and tofel. They're both tofel here, but I'll make a bracha on this side. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'sha'akol niyeh
Amen.
All right.
Which wing should I take? Which is the...
Doesn't matter.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Good flavor.
It's an excellent flavor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you've had a diverse career from working with the Ministry of Defense in Manhattan to leading the telecom startup, serving as a director of institutional advancement and finally your current balance between working at a Five Star Catering and teaching Torah to a wide array of audiences, including your critically acclaimed Business Ethics Shiur at Lev HaTorah.
Critically acclaimed.
It's very good. It's very good. I really enjoy it.
Critically.
On Rav Ahron Shiur too.
It doesn't say positive or negative. Just says critical.
Critically.
Yeah.
Right, very good. Excellent.
Yeah.
I'll do the jokes, okay?
Fine.
Okay. I'm kidding.
So, how have you navigated the balance between your professional pursuits and your spiritual commitments throughout these transitions?
That's a great first question. I'm happy I didn't have that before. I will say it off the cuff. I think that that is the ultimate of kind of deciding. I know you didn't ask this question, but I'll answer it with being a Jew, of a question of why did I move to Israel? And I think the central reason why I moved to Israel is because I think as a Jew we have to look at ruchnius over gashmius. I think that the challenge of living, I only lived outside of, I only lived in America, so I can't comment on Canada. I know they have big taxes now in Mexico and stuff, but I can only speak, and all of our Chinese students that we have, we feel bad for them. It's only 10% there. But I had a feeling that gashmius was becoming, one of the mistakes that we made, my wife and I, when, by the way, a shout out to her for staying with me for 26 years. And but one of the things, we wanted to move to Israel, but we bought a house. But then all of a sudden, I started to see that my friends were getting different cars. We all had Toyota Camry and Honda Odyssey or Sienna. Depends. That was it. Then all of a sudden, a friend got a Lexus. I'm like, well, what's going on here? And, right? Yeah, Infinity. I'm like, oh, what? And then everybody was adding on to their house, and the joke was like, you have 2 kids. You have a 4-bedroom house. What? And we started to see that the level of kashrus, and obviously some of it is for good reason, and some people needed to do it, and I understand that. And I definitely moved for my kids, but I moved really more for my spirituality, and that my kids would be able to see kind of who I want to be and how I define myself. Can I tell us a quick story? If you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
So unfortunately, my father passed away about 2 months ago. Roni Kaparsh Mishkavo. I would say we're dedicated this for Klodim Kalman and Yaakov Yosef, but I don't think he would want us to do that. But my father taught me many different lessons, but I think this defines hopefully the answer to your question. So I was, my parents are from the 5 towns. I grew up in the 5 towns, yeah. And so I was, there's a little shtibel across the street from my dad's house. They actually renamed the shul for my father, which is so beautiful. And in this little shtibel, Jonathan Greenstein's house and the Greenstein house, and there, my father, I was there, I was visiting. on one of my many business trips, and my father went ahead and wanted to introduce me to some of his new friends from this shtiebel. And so the guy, in a typical 5 towns, is, oh, Shalom Aleichem, what's the first thing you ask when everybody asks you, what do you do for a living? So I was all ready, and I'm like, I'm the CEO of 5 Star Caterers. And before I could finish the word caterers, my wonderful father, Zechron Avracha, said, he's also a Rebbi at Lev HaTorah. And that taught me a tremendous lesson. We define ourselves a lot by, what we, I'm being honest, and I hope I don't get fired for this, but I don't define myself as the CEO of 5 Star Caterers. I should define myself as a Rebbi in Lev HaTorah. Okay, it happens not to make any money. Great. But that's really what I want to be. Spirituality should be on top of that. And I think that we should go ahead and look at ourselves from a level of what's really important, right? And it could be, and you can have a nice, I'm not saying you can have a nice this and a nice that, you're not allowed to go on vacation. You can go on vacation. You can go get your, Chipotle and then go to Costa Rica and you could do that. But a person has to realize spirituality is number one. And when you have that heter of working, so now what happens on the day that you don't have work? There's something, I don't know if you remember, something called Sundays. I don't know if you remember this, right? So what do you do Sundays? What is your Sunday made up of? Are you learning on Sundays? Is there spirituality about your Sunday? Or is it a day off? Come on, Rabbi, I need a day off. No. To me, spirituality is number one, and there are things on the side that are quote-unquote heterim, but how long are those heterim are? And how many hours does a person have to work? I don't think the money should define you. I think the spirituality should define you and the type of person that you are, that you combine Torah, Avodah, Gimel Chasadim, all those things. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we move on?
Next one. All right.
What are we up to now?
We are up to the green one, which is Amazon.
So I have to admit, I don't love the color. The color is, looks a little strange to me.
Jewish.
Yeah. It says
too
on in
light to be
Hebrew,
Mountain
Pakanti. Okay. And but it doesn't. I'm not nervous from it.
Right. The second one.
I see why it's called Amazon. It's
Do
very,
you?
yeah, it's very tropical. I don't know how to describe it. It just feels tropical.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right.
In terms of the spiciness, I get it, but
Right. Yeah. It's just like
it's not something I would want to put on my
In your children?
No.
No.
This would not go in the children. Yeah, I would keep it away from men, women, and children. But it's kind of nice spice to it.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling it a little bit more. Excellent.
It'll keep on
Yeah,
going.
keep
Give
on
me
going.
another question. Yeah.
But I can take a drink. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So next question is: early in your career, while working with Israelis in Manhattan, you portrayed yourself as fluent in Hebrew, resulting in a slightly uncomfortable moment when asked about past drug use. You mistakenly happily shared that you do samim every Motzei Shabbat. Can you share?
Wow, I feel like this is the Shin Bet now. Is there a light here? This is like, what's going on here? Wow. Call it kavod.
Yeah. So, could you share a memorable or humorous experience from that time and what it taught you about cultural immersion and authenticity?
So if I just quickly could tell the story, because it sounds really bad, worse than it is. So the way the story goes, I'm sorry to be honest, I'm not saying my Hebrew is Baruch Hashem. I've improved my Hebrew. I'm living here Baruch Hashem 17 years. But still, I was just saying this over at the first lunch that I had, let's be honest. I was saying to someone how it bothers me when I'm on the phone with somebody and they say to me, well, maybe we talk in English. And I thought my Hebrew was pretty good, but okay. So in order to, first of all, to get the job in the Ministry of Defense, your interview was in Hebrew. I did not know Hebrew at all at that point, and I was in a lot of trouble. So I didn't know what to do, and I was in the, I didn't know. It was a big problem, and the job sounded amazing. And at that point, I had not had such great interviews. I didn't do very well. I was in Science Business School, and they had the great zt'l of bringing the Ministry of Defense in. This was like, for me, a dream job. But like, you're buying weapons for the army. I wanted to move to Israel. It was amazing. How am I going to do this? So the night before, I do what any sensible, honest person would do. I watched a movie that was totally in Hebrew, and I just said, I'll be an actor. I try to be a comedian, so I'll fake it. So I got in there, except for the cigarette. I was like, Shalom boker tov, man yonim, shmi Dani. And then right away they were like, da Yisraeli? I'm like, no. Like, how's your Hebrew? And they wanted to know why I had such a smoker's voice. But I guess the movie I was watching had the. And they asked me a few questions I could answer, and then they took out a piece of paper and they said, this is an article from the Yediot Ahronoth. Can you please read it? This was a problem because it didn't have Nikudot in it, and it wasn't transliterated. I'm in trouble now, and I didn't know what to do at that point. And I knew I was going to be in trouble, so I was like, ma, me? No, I couldn't even speak well. I was like, ani, me? No, ma, and he's like, I understand it. And then that was it. But I had to pass a security interview. And it was all in Hebrew. And it was a real security. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but we'll see what happens to me tonight. But it was like with one of those lights, heat lights, and you were sweating, and it was 4 hours long, and they asked you the same question. They repeated the question, trying to get you upset. And she had nothing on. I was this little loser kid from the 5 towns, nerdy kid. Nothing was exciting. They asked me anything. And they said, if you can't answer a question, you just get up and leave. That's it. And they asked me about drug use. And the word in Hebrew, obviously, is samim for drugs. I didn't know that. I only knew the word samim, which we did do every Motzei Shabbat in my house. Crazy Five Towns family. And I said yes, and she was so excited. And she started writing it down. The security lady, and she's like, "Ma kol Motzei Shabbat." And she's like, "Who's there?" And they're like, "Kol HaMishpacha." She's like, "Holy, what is wrong with this guy? I know he went to Hefner, come on!" It was really bad. And then Baruch Hashem, she looked at me and she said, drugs. I'm like, no, I thought you meant samim. And she did something apparently you're not allowed to do. She laughed. I'm not joking now. She laughed, and the last time I ever saw that woman in my life, another security guard came in. She was not allowed to be. I never even saw her in the Ministry of Defense. I don't know what I did to her. But and then the guy asked me a series of questions, and I apologized, and I made a mistake, whatever it might be. But it was an amazing experience. I will tell you that I got this job, even though a lot of it sounds like dishonesty until now. I was able to speak Hebrew in those days. They didn't trust the internet, so we weren't allowed to use the internet because of the security and stuff. So we had to write letters. I had to write letters in Hebrew. I did get in trouble once because I wrote a letter, and apparently the way I wrote it was confused for a slang where I was screaming out. This was like a general in the army. There was like a special in those days. I think that we call them in America the frogmen. So they were practicing with a pool, and we bought them this pool. And I said, maybe you just threw it in the garbage, is what I wrote in Hebrew. And apparently there's a slang like, you're a bunch of idiots, you threw it in the garbage. And it was like a whole thing. They wanted to fight. I'm like, Ani paron, Ani lo yasad, you learn now. And they're like, okay, whatever they say. So they wrote back a letter apologizing and say, he's a stupid American. But I will tell you, I got the job right after Rabbi was assassinated. And there were 300 Israelis there. And we had, in the Ministry of Defense, there were 300 Israelis and 10 from people. We started a mincha minyan there. So you can imagine, we didn't always have a minyan, and we would get many Jews that were there, and they would join the minyanim, and we started to learn people who used to be from, people who liked, it was very, very interesting. And even though they really did not like from people in the beginning, they got to know us, they got to know me, and we started learning with them. And every day, by the way, every Friday, a Chabad guy would come, and they were very mad at him. Someone tried to kick them out because it was right after again Rabbi, and they just hated it. And I said to him, one day I said to him, I gotta ask you a question. Kol hakavod lecha, but why are you here? Nobody. So he says to me, give me a percentage. How many of the men do you think put tefillin on every week? So I said, 5%? And that's including the from people who maybe didn't put it on, yet. So he says, nope. He said 35% put tefillin on of non-from people. Can you imagine? And they would ask them the parsha, women want candles. There was a great opportunity there for them to see religious people. This is my dream, is people to see religious people in a different light. We all have preconceived notions. Unfortunately, you have a wonderful yeshiva here, but we're in Ramat Beit Shemesh, so we don't get to see one of the great experiences. Go out to Tel Aviv, go out to these places, and you meet people, and they're like, oh, that's from people? Oh, Baruch Hashem, during the war, I had some experiences where we got to meet people. We got to go out. I had a great experience. I helped a friend of mine collect money for equipment, and so on. So I got to go to the border of Lebanon and places like that. And I was shocked to see the person who only looked, probably much more religious than I am, with the tabs and so on. And he looked at me and goes, so what? You bought us a tactical, helmet, and you bought us a drone. You have tzitzis, You should be surprised, these people. So those were great experiences to show me what the real world is all about. Okay, are we on what are we up to now?
What's the third one?
We don't have to have all of them, right? We could just cut it out somewhere. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. This one is just called Red.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very nice. It's got a very nice kick,
mix of both.
but it's excellent. I like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I put it in the cholent, but it's because it's got the after kick, which you don't want necessarily. I'm sorry I'm referring to cholent all the time. But yeah, it's very good. So far I like this one the best.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I feel it now. A little bit.
Yeah.
Now they're reminding me that my grandparents were from Poland. Okay.
So I know I love food, and you love food. Yeah, so...
That's a little food.
Who loves
Not wings.
food? Yeah. So your love for food is well known, highlighted by enjoyable events like the all-you-can-eat dinners at Papagaio's and the Chalent cook-off, speaking of Chalent, for your 30th birthday, where you guest the creators of various Chalents.
Wow.
How does your passion for culinary experiences intersect with your approach to community building and teaching?
Wow. Yeah, so my wife, for my 30th birthday, she was really, I'm sorry to say this, but I was 50 this year. And we didn't have a children cook-off, but we had a children cook-off. It's probably one of the reasons why we made Aliyah, because I insulted a lot of people, apparently. Everybody made their own children from the block or whatever was our friends. And I knew, some of them I knew right away. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one that has all the beans. I don't like this one. It's my neighbor up there. And she's like, what do you mean? Yeah, it didn't go very well, but I did a very good job in guessing whose it was. Listen, we definitely have a halacha called Achilas Gasa, which unfortunately I think about a lot when I go to Papagaio's. And happens to be a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, my boss, who's also a friend. Kenny Yeager took me to my wife and I, and his wife and I, to the Waldorf for breakfast yesterday. And you think about this, especially as you see, I'm on a diet now. And so I thought about it, and I said, do I really need to have that extra? So there is a shiloh about that. And so I've given shiurim about the concept of Achilas Gasa. But let's take that on the side for a moment. I think food has an amazing ability to make people happy.
Definitely.
And bring people into, Yahadis. A lot of Rabbeim were much, more Lev HaTorah-ish, i.e., in the Hasidic realm. Yeah, meaning, they believe more in, and they'll tell stories. And Rabbi Weinberger talks about, the potato kugel that made the guy religious. There is something to that. There is something to food and the ability food does. Listen, we know this from the Jewish moms and grandmas. Have something else. You look so skinny. I'm like, Ma, I don't look skinny. Like, yeah, you look skinny. Like, whenever I go over to my, when I go to my mom, she always made me go, Ma, why do you make me cookies? I'm here right now. That's the way moms take care of you. You look. But so there's something to food and love. And I think it's very important. One thing that the question did not address is that you'll laugh at this, but how I got into shiurim and knowing that maybe it's something that I could do is, besides the fact that both my parents were teachers, when I went for smicha, I have the schus of having smicha from Rav Ahron Soloveichik. So zt'l. So I don't think Rav Ahron wanted me to go to smicha for smicha reasons. He just wanted me to continue in my learning. I didn't know if I was going to use it for anything. And I got a call one day, and we saw on the caller ID was Rabbi Neuberger, who was the Rav of our show, Yaakov Neuberger Shlita. And I picked the phone. Shalom Rebbi, how are you? He says, I called to speak to your wife. He spoke to my wife for a few minutes. I don't know what was going on. I'm like, oh no, is the get ready? Or what's going on? And I'm like, Rebbi, is everything okay? And he said, no, I just had to ask your wife permission to ask you a question. And he said, I want you to give a shiur. A lot of people have requested, you're funny, and I know we have to give a shiur. And it's Tuesday night shiur. And I was nervous, and I said, Rebbi, do you know who I am? I'm not a Talmid Chacham. He goes, yeah, that's why I want to give the shiur, because you don't think you're a Talmid. It's good. And I gave the shiur. It was a very successful shiur. But I want to admit to you the truth, that the first few weeks, it was a horrible shiur. I gave a shiur, to understand. It was like 9:30 at night. People had just come home from work, and let's just say I wasn't teaching, mostly was not teaching the people at the shiur. I probably was teaching their children and grandchildren, because everybody was sleeping. You know what I'm saying? So like, maybe they was going in, and then maybe their kids were here. I don't know. But it wasn't the greatest experience. And once again, I give credit to, again, I mentioned Kenny Yeager, my all-you-can-eat partner, and he said to me, can I make a suggestion? You give good Torah. It's not a good hour. It's at night. He said, let's make this. And literally we called it Tuesday night all-you-can-eat shiur. And we had sponsors every week. We would sponsor, and we had chickies, and we had Dougies, and and all of a sudden 35 people came, and it was I can't explain to you. All of a sudden the shiur, not because it was a funnier shiur, it was a happier shiur. I would have wives come to me in shul on Shabbos and say, thank you so much. My husband's a different person. This is like it's not a camaraderie of going and playing poker on Wednesday nights. It's going Tuesday nights and learning Torah and telling your kids. And it was because of it's not because of me. It was because of the food. The food just brought. So food's a very, very important part of life, and we know this. We have halachas about it. Why is this a central theme of our holidays involves that you have to eat? It's a halacha, And what's the one day midaraisa that you're not allowed to eat is when you're a malach. Malachs don't eat, but that's not the way you should really live. In fact, the ultimate test probably is Purim. When Purim comes around, you have Adelo Yada, where we put not just food, but drink into you. You say, okay, who are you really? Because food, obviously, it seems like defines a person. So there is a reason my kids always laugh that as all the jobs I could have, I went into catering because I love food. I love free food more than anything else. It's true, but I do think food does bring people, and I think there's a very serious connection between food and Yahadus and bringing people closer.
Yeah.
We are now more than halfway through. We are up to habanero.
I've heard of that.
Zaguero.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first one.
I was about to say, I don't actually taste it, which means that's about to come.
This is just tastes a lot. See, maybe I'm not good at this. I'm not a chef. I'm just the CEO of the company. But to me, it's just like all hot peppers taste. Sometimes I'm embarrassed when I go to get shawarma somewhere, and the guy's like, "Ma charif," and I'm like, "Lo toda." Ma lama lo, and I get it, and then I'm like, "This is," and now the whole shawarma is tainted.
Yeah,
I feel it's just like a very spicy taste.
Okay. Fourth question.
More questions.
Yeah.
Are there each one is a question? Is that how it works here?
What do you mean?
Each of the things.
Yes. Yeah.
Whew, we're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah.
I gotta pick up the kids from school. No, not there.
This is more important.
Call my wife.
Yeah. Speaking of your wife, both you and your wife, Serena, received blessing from Rav Refael Levine before you started dating, with guidance that seemed to align.
It's amazing to me.
What? How
much you know about me?
We have guys on the inside.
I'm afraid when we get to question 7, it's going to be like, I'm going to be in a little trouble. You're a second wife. No. Go ahead.
That was a joke.
Or was it? Go ahead.
We'll find out later.
Ahead.
So
Question 7. Yeah.
Both you and your wife, Serena, received blessing from Rav Refael Levine before you started dating, with guidance that seemed to align with your eventual union. How do you interpret these experiences in terms of seeking and recognizing divine guidance in personal relationships?
Wow. Really excellent question. As always, all these questions are better than the answers I'm giving. But again, if I may, brief story, Rav Refael Levine. It's really funny because we literally on Shabbos referenced this story. So it's funny. I have a wonderful picture of me and Rav Refael Levine. So I want to admit, going back to Lev HaTorah, Lev HaTorah is a wonderful yeshiva that is very spiritually based.
He does not get paid to see
and
it.
I do not at all. I don't get paid at all. But what I mean is that I do feel, and this is explained, I know it's going to be, but it's going to explain my answer. I do feel that we've kind of switched, let's say, for example, from the brisker derech of not having a relationship with the Rebbi, although I had a very close relationship with Rav Ahron Soloveichik, and we ate lunch together almost every day, and we had amazing, in-depth conversations like a Hasidic Rebbe. But people say it was in Rabbi Yosef Dov Soloveichik, so you didn't have such a relationship, it was very hard, and we're moving to the way where you want to have a closer relationship, you want to have a relationship. That being said, I was never a bracha person. I'm being honest, I never went to, when quote unquote, when I was forced to, I was like, okay, everybody's doing it, it was a peer pressure of going for brachas, but it never was a thing of mine. And in my dating career, for those that know my dating career, certainly not going to go online, but I dated more than one woman, whatever. And I happened to be dating, and it was an Elulzman, where YU only started after the Chagim. So we had an amazing month of learning. Rav Moshe Targin was our Rebbi, and we were in Yeshivat HaKotel at the time with Rabbeinu. And Rabbeinu said to me, I told him I wasn't sure about this girl I was dating, and he said, "Crazy, you need to go to Rav Refael Levine." And I had no idea, I don't know anything about it. And it was Rav Ahron Levine, and he was a very holy person, there's no question. Once you meet him, he imbues that. And I think the value of going to a Rebbi, the Baba Sali's yurtzeit was yesterday. So I heard a lot of different Torahs in the Baba Sali. The greatest thing I heard about the Baba Sali was, this rabbi said it, I didn't promise you I didn't say it, and he said it, and he said, they used to ask the Baba Sali, like, how did you become the Baba Sali? Like, how did you get this way? How did you get so holy and so da-da-da? And he said, nothing, I just do Torah mitzvahs. Like, that's all. I don't have any special recipe. I didn't get, like, special gift from Hashem. And the answer is that the closer we are to Hashem, right, if we don't have all of the fanfare and all the side stuff that isn't important, like Instagram and whatever your kids are into these days, right? But I don't have all that's in my days. Facebook was the HR, right? LinkedIn. Yeah. I have some Hasidic. We do a lot with Hasidic companies. So a lot of them don't have smartphones, but they're smartphones, but they're allowed to have, here in Eretz Yisrael, this is very popular, they're allowed to have WhatsApp. So to them, like the WhatsApp status is like the, wow! You see that? I totally got to see this thing. I was in a store actually picking up my son's watch, and this guy said, you got to see this WhatsApp status. And he's showing me some guy jumping off a building. I go, like, God in Himmel, Fine. I wish that was the only thing my kids were into. But so when there's no interference, when you're on the exact radio channel, right? I don't know if you know what that is, radio. But, but there used to be a time where there was a dial and a tuner, and you're tuned in, right? WPLJ was 95.5. 95.4 sounded horrible. One of my mentors is JM in the AM, right? The great Nachum Siegel. So Nachum Siegel, when I was a kid, that's all we would listen to on the way to school. 91.1. Unfortunately, it was also, NPR was also 91.1. So you couldn't hear it well. That's us. But when you're with a tzaddik, they're tuned in, it's perfect. And therefore, that's why we go to them. We don't go to them because we're doubting to them, Chas v'shalom. We go to them because they have a connection with the Rebbeinu Shalom closer. And therefore, they can help us out. I'm a big believer in asking for brachas. All my kids do. Thank God we have a relationship with Rav Asher Weiss. We go there every year, and I listen to a shiurim all the time. And I listen to live shiurim. And yeah, there you request a bracha. So Rav Refael Levine I went to. And it was a strange situation, and it was Rav Refael Levine who convinced me, kind of, that this girl wasn't for me, because he did this goral where he'd recite my name, her name, and it was Chol HaMoed, so he didn't want to use a pen, but he says Pekuach Nefesh for me, because I was going back to America. And then he basically gave me a whole Devar Torah about I was so picky and I should just go out with anyone. And that led me to literally coming home. This is back in the olden days where we didn't have cell phones and stuff. The girl's like, yeah, basically she dumped me. And then I went out on a series of dates. And Baruch Hashem, the last of those, thank God, was with my wife, with Serena. And and Baruch Hashem, I probably on paper wouldn't have gone out with her, which is a very important lesson for all those that are dating. This whole thing with the resumes and the dating is ridiculous. As Rav Refael Levine said to me, zt'l, there's got to be something there. You can't say, oh, she's also not Shomer Shal. Okay, she has to have the same values. And Baruch Hashem, for me, it was an amazing date. For her, it wasn't. It took her a little bit of time, and for the last 27 years, she's been the greatest Baal's Chesed ever for keeping me. But honestly, she on her first date, you know what she said? She's like, I was actually in Eretz Yisrael a few weeks ago, and I have the weirdest story. And she tells me a story that on Motzei Shabbos, the people who she was staying by, very close friends of hers, mother, said, you have to come to the Kotel Motzei Shabbos. You need to get a bracha, because you're not married yet. She was 21 and not married. It's terrible. And so she got a bracha she said, his name was Rav Refael Levine. You probably never heard of him. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a story one day for some wing show that we're going to do. So I tell her, right? But so what happened over there? And by the way, we went back on our honeymoon. We went to Eretz Yisrael for a honeymoon, and he said, I remember, that's the picture he's holding. I gave him a check. He's holding the check, and he said to me, until you have your first kid, my job's not done. Baruch Hashem, we had our first kid, but we weren't able to make it back to Eretz Yisrael before he passed away. And but I will tell you, there is a divine, there's something that the tzaddikim have, and that's why we go to them. And we go to Kavarim. People love to go to Kavarim. What's with the kever, right? I have often visited my father's kever because it's so close. So what's there? Okay, it's a chance to talk to the person. the person's on a higher level. It's a connection that we have. We're talking to the Rabbi Shalom, of course, but I know you're Ben Shamayim, so be a Melis Yosher. That's what it is. And there's a holiness to that and a connection to the great thing. I remember we had the great schus with some of the great Rabbi Rav Natan Olivos. I went to Rav Chaim, who used to go to Rav Chaim Kanievsky. They were great experiences to go there, even though you traveled. The whole thing was a 3-4 hour thing. Of course, it was Halo Tewan at the end, but that's not important. But and all it is, he literally looked at you and he went, "Woo-ha!" Right? Bracha v'atzlacha. That's it. Okay, there's something to that, definitely.
So it's funny you bring up Rav Ahron because he's coming up in a later question.
But we'll get.
It also makes me scared that they sell it in such a small container.
Right, that
which
should
means-
not use that word.
Yeah, no.
We're just like crying.
Alright.
Wow. Again, it's got that pepper taste.
That's an immediate punch. Wow.
Yeah.
Just hits the back of the throat. We're good. We're getting somewhere. Yeah, there's not much like flavor. That's just spice. Okay, moving on. As we mentioned before,
Why are you so sad? What are you crying? I know it's emotional. Don't be so sad. It's okay.
I just can't take it. You know.
Not the ice, not the ice.
Yeah, not the eye. So, good call. So,
Okay.
as we mentioned earlier, you received smicha from Rav Ahron Soloveichik, that's all, and had an incredibly close relationship and connection with him. When you share words from your Rebbi, it is very... Excuse me.
I didn't know you were so close with him as well.
It's just very emotional for me. It's very clear who you are talking about. In our era, there seems to be an erosion of this type of singular rabbi/talmud relationship where it is much more common that people have a group of rabbeim/individuals they look to. Do you feel this shift is positive or detrimental, and what guidance would you offer to Talmidim looking to build a connection to a Rebbe?
Yeah. Listen, I truth be told, I have, Baruch Hashem, a number of different Rabbeim. And truth be told, which is an interesting, fun fact, which thank God was not dug up about me, I never had close relations with the Rabbeim. I did not establish a close relationship although it's funny, one of my Rabbeim from high school I still have a relationship with. When my father passed away, he called me, Rabbi Ryan, Shlita. So maybe I'm wrong in what I'm saying, but I never really had, my year in Israel, I didn't really connect, although I'm friendly with the Rebbe, like I know the Rebbe, but didn't have that relationship. I came to YU, and I have to give the shout out, I came to YU, and I had the great schos of being in the shiur of Meir Golda. And wow, did Rav Meir Golda turn me on to Torah. My father, Harani Kafaras Mishava, really started that spark, because he loved Torah so much, and all he did is learn Torah. You had spoken before, we had a question about the idea, like that was his kulo, that was what he was about. It wasn't about teaching. It was about being a public school teacher. It was about learning Torah. But I just saw this person, and somebody had explained to me something so beautiful. They said that even if you don't understand Hebrew, shiur is in Hebrew. Even if you don't understand Hebrew, just watch Rabbi. Just watch Rabbi Golda. Looked like he was on drugs, and you just want to say, "What? I want that. I don't know what it is."
Samim.
Right, exactly. Very good. It was like an ecstasy. It was like, wow, what is he? Unbelievable. What? And I had such a close relationship. At some point, we both agreed it's time to move on. Right? And that's how I met Rav Ahron. The whole story of meeting Rav Ahron was pretty amazing because, Rav Ahron was later in his days, and I'm not crying, and the peppers are coming out, and it was later in his days, and Rav Ahron was the only Rosh Hashiva I've ever heard of in my life, who not only traveled from Chicago every week to be Rosh Hashiva in 2 locations, but was also paralyzed on the left side of his body. And I didn't think, there was a rumor he wasn't still with it. My father said to me, try his shiur. My father was in his shiur as well, which is really what brought me to this shiur. And from day one, like not just day one, from hour one, after he gave the shiur, it happened to be, I got lucky. He was discussing the halachas of Lashon Hara, and I understood like half the shiur, so that's why. And afterwards he looked at me and he goes, "No, how did I do?" And I'm like, right? And then what probably the thing that really drew me to Rav Ahron was, I said, there was only 8 guys in the shiur, so he knew I was trying the shiur out. And then he said to me, "Send regards to your father." And I was like, oh God, he's really out of it. He doesn't know who I didn't introduce myself. How does he know who my father is? And he looked at me and he said, "You look exactly like Kalman, your father," which I've been told. It's a great bracha. And he remembered my father, this was the 1990s, late 90s, 97. My father was in the 60s. Like, that's a Rebbi. And as I said, we ate lunch a lot together, and we had discussions. That was the time I was working for the Ministry of Defense. Take this out. That was the time I was working for the Ministry of Defense, and he thought I had a higher position than I ever had. Like, he thought I was like very important in the Ministry of Defense. And he would always be asking what's going on. I would pretend, here's what's happening, like I knew anything about the government. I will tell you that one time he asked me to set up a meeting between him and, at the time, surprisingly, but Bibi Netanyahu was still the prime minister. And I actually successfully set up a meeting, even though I was the lowest guy in the totem pole. It was pretty amazing. It turned out it was in Washington, and Rav Ahron, because of his health, couldn't travel there, but he was well known. I don't think that you have to have a relationship with one Rebbe. I don't agree with that at all. I think you need to have your Rabbi, and I have a wonderful, close relationship with Rabbi Soloveichik, Shlita, who's my, I have the schos of helping build his shul. And as I told you before about Rabbi Newberger, I think it's great to have a lot of different Rabbeim. And also, I ask my questions to different Rabbeim. Rav Ahron's not around anymore, unfortunately. So his son, Rav Chaim, who lives here, Shlita, so I ask him questions. I don't think you have to have one. I do think, I'm not, from the Agudas, I don't necessarily believe in Das Torah, but Das Torah really means that there are certain questions that are not halachic you should still ask. During my father's illness, I had some of those questions about coming into America during Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, so you have to have Rabbeim. It's very important. It's very important to have like that top rabbi and so on. So I don't think a person has to go ahead and run and find the biggest gedolim and I think your Rabbeim could be regular types of people and that you could connect to, that understand your situation, that live through it and so on and so forth. Rav Ahron Soloveichik was so down to earth. He made a comment once. He said, if your wife wants to go to the movies, you go to the movies with your wife. Thank God my wife never asked me to go to the movies. But for me, it meant a lot. He's with the world. He understood that. He understood to be part of the world. I asked him a lot of very intricate shilos, especially in work and situations, and he would answer and understand. And then a lot of times he would look at me and he'd go, Dov, this question was only for you. It's only for this time. Don't tell anybody that I said this is a very special thing. That's a Rebbe. But I think you could have a lot of different Rabbeim. I don't think you only have to have one Rebbe. It is true that Rav Ahron Soloveichik shaped my life. There's no question about it, just because of who he was. One of the Rabbeim here in Yeshiva once said something to me. We were discussing a situation that was going on in the Yeshiva with, I think it was with the Talmud. And I thought it was so obvious. And I said, this is what... And he said, you're saying that because you're a Talmud of Rav Ahron Soloveichik. Meaning, you've been so skewed in the positive way with only thinking emes. Rav Ahron was all about emes and no chil Hashem. And it develops you. It's your kishka. So we talked about the gedolim before, the Baba Basali. Why? Because it's just who you are. If you spend a lot of time, you're going to become Baba Basali like. Not in a bad way. It's the greatest thing in the world. So that's why we want to be, right? I don't, you all know that that's what it says in Sabik Ba'afra Raglov, right? That's what Pirkei Avos tells us. Why? No, because it's about seeing the type of person that they are and saying, wow, you could live this. This is a life to live. That's amazing. Rav Ahron would often point his sefer is called Logic of the Mind, Logic of the Heart, right? That a person, you don't paskin halacha only this. There has to be a heart here. They have to understand the situation. I remember asking a very famous Gadol Hador from Eretz Yisrael, one of the top Gedolim of Eretz Yisrael, a question, and he looked at me and he said, do you not have any Rebbeim in America? And I said, I do. He says, ask him now. Because he was saying, I don't know your situation. And it was a great answer. I can tell you the black and white halacha, but that's not going to help. That's the importance of having a Rebbe, because it's not just all something you could, ask Rabbi Google or Rabbi AI. You can't. It's not good enough. You need to have the hergish, the laid for it. The chobas halavavos, Rav Ahron would say. That's very important.
Yeah, I've definitely been getting that. Like, since being at yeshiva now, it's definitely Rebbeim, more connected.
That's to not have a plug for the yeshiva because I don't care. Yeah, I think that's a very important plug for Lev HaTorah, and that's what Lev HaTorah is about. Some outstanding person once said to me, and I say this as the biggest compliment. If they want to, take it out of the thing, you take it out of the thing. Because maybe it's, it doesn't sound the way I mean it, and I mean it from the heart. One of the greatest parts of Lev HaTorah is that Lev HaTorah doesn't sell itself as like, we have the greatest gedolim. We have the great. Yeah, great. You have the greatest gedolim who can't have anything. They don't know anything about Talmidim. They don't know how to interact. We have Rebbeim who Baruch Hashem are Talmidei Chachamim, but also know how to interact with students, know how to talk to you about your girlfriend, and know how to do something like this together and say, this is not. I mean, I think it's a waste of my time. But this is not a waste of my time. This is something that I don't know. Maybe somebody will watch and like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. And I can talk to you about Chas v'Shalom. I can talk to you about sports and talk to you about the Super Bowl, and and I'm not going to say to you what the ball. What is that? No. I had a relationship a little bit with Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg. He would always talk about baseball. No, how's the Yankees doing? There's nothing wrong with that. We have to realize that. Now I'm getting nervous because it's a new company. Yeah, so let me tell you what just happened now. What happened was that we went to the worst, the company Ghost, where they were done. They said that we can't get any hotter than this. And then we went to some company from Costa Rica, and now they're like, oh, this is our Ashka. I said, I'm being honest with you. I'm nervous now because now it's like a new company. So Ghost couldn't even provide us. I don't know. I'm nervous.
And it says extreme hot with a bomb on it.
Yeah, there's a bomb on it. I mean, that's like Hamas here. Like, what are we doing here? Okay. Yeah. We are no longer in Ashkenazville.
Yeah, wow.
We just went to the Pesach program in Costa Rica.
Okay. No, you don't want to double dip, you know what I'm saying?
How are you doing it?
Sometimes you just got to commit.
Very good.
Yeah.
I know this is surprising what I'm going to say now. I actually like this better than the other two.
There's flavor. Definitely.
There's flavor. The other ones I felt had no flavor.
Yeah.
Which might be why before
Why'd you turn 80 years old? What happened, man?
No, before when we were saying that you don't get why people do this. This has more flavor.
No. Yeah. So now the other two ones are just bad brands. They're bad. This is no. This I understand. I'm going back on what I said. The other two just taste like hot peppers.
Right.
The fact that I'm even talking now is amazing.
Yeah,
I'm surprised, which makes me really, really scared for the last one.
So, I'll be honest. I wasn't really feeling, so I kept double dipping. Don't be double dipping.
Okay, we just learned about double dipping. Don't be double dipping.
Yeah. So,
My tongue's feeling it a lot. I may not be able to talk about it.
My everything's
Oh, maybe I
feeling
can
a
do
lot.
Spanish now.
so your Eshet Chayil Serena is known for meticulous planning, yet there was a time just before making Aliyah when, despite careful preparations, things went awry and you both made significant life decisions to push forward with Aliyah nonetheless. Fast forward several years, and you're here living in Israel.
17.
17?
To be exact.
Okay, so fast forward 17 years.
Yep.
And you're here living in Israel. October 7th happens, and your son prepares himself to go join the fight in Gaza. You and your beloved
Not in
father,
Gaza. Yeah,
Alav
just for
Hashalom.
the-
No?
Just for the record. Yehuda V'Shomron. Nice.
I'm sure. My apologies.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I just want to be honest.
Okay, fine.
Wait.
So you and your father, Alav Hashalom, make a point of giving him a bracha before he left the house. So when facing these incredible challenges, what gave you the strength to push through these challenges? How do you cultivate bitachon and emunah during such unprecedented times? And how can you, any advice giving people going forward? And times keeps on getting crazy.
So we'll start with Aliyah if you don't mind.
Sure.
And we'll get to October 7th. So Aliyah was maybe not necessarily the typical story, but I think it's important to tell the story because it's could be a push for other people to make Aliyah. We always wanted to make Aliyah, and I only dated girls who wanted to make Aliyah. My wife wasn't so honest with me because we didn't make Aliyah right away. She had to go through school, and that was important. She was a PT. She was in PT school. She had to finish PT school. She had to get some field work, and then we found ourselves buying a house, which was obviously not the greatest thing. And we lived in a great community, and I started a shul, and I gave Sharon another shul, and everything was going very, very well. And Baruch Hashem, at some point, my wife said, as my Yaakov was in first grade, if we don't go now, we'll never go. And we made the joint decision. And that was the hard part of finding a job, because the job actually that I had was with an Israeli company who needed somebody in America, so there's no way I could keep that job. And Baruch Hashem, it seemed, I landed at Everything for a Reason, but I landed an amazing job, making more money than I ever made before, the executive vice president for sales at a startup company in Israel, knowing that I was moving to Israel there. Maybe a little bit over a month, if I'm not mistaken, before I made Aliyah, I got a call on a Friday. I knew there was a bit of a problem because every Friday we would have a call of which companies we were able to pay. They were having financial problems, there was no question. They were a startup company. And there was a big infusion of money from this guy, and he kept delaying the money, and it turned out he was supposed to give a lot of millions of dollars, and it didn't work out. And on a Friday, I got a call that the company's going bankrupt, and they're not allowed to tell me this, but the only reason they're telling me is because they know I'm making Aliyah, maybe I should make Aliyah now, because I don't have a job. And that's the thing you need kind of when you come here. And I went to my wife, and Baruch Hashem, we've always had a relationship where we don't have any secrets, and we both agreed to keep a secret, and that we would be the only two people that knew about it. Meaning, I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell anybody else. It turned out, and I couldn't get a job, because to understand, when you make Aliyah, to call a company in Israel and to say I want a job, they're like, "Oh, you crazy? Why you make Aliyah? You crazy? You're mad? It got amazing." Everybody thinks you're not going to. So when you come, so I didn't have anything on the horizon until I moved here. And then Baruch Hashem, I actually, for the first year here, I actually had two jobs. I landed a job back in telecom and also working for Machal Mayan. Shout out to them. I was the executive director there for 2 years. And Baruch Hashem, everything kind of worked out, but it was not an easy experience. Eretz Yisrael Nikneh B'Yisurim. I remember getting a wonderful, you talked about brachas before. So one of the great Rabbi here in Motzei Shabbat was Rav Mordechai Goldstein Shlita, who's the head of a very big community, huge place. And happened to be that one of my, I would call him a Talmud of mine, but he's much older than I am. I used to do my taxes. Mr. Berger, Alav Hashalom. So he was very good friends with, he grew up with Rav Mordechai Goldstein. So I went up to him to give a bracha. He said, "Oh my God, you just moved here." He goes, "I want to give you a bracha." And it was the greatest bracha, because the bracha was, despite the difficulty you're going to have, despite the red tape, to write everything, it should be a Yishuv Kal. And it turned out that was the day that our lift came, and the guy blackmailed me, and not blackmailed me, but he said he wouldn't come down the block because he couldn't get down, and he wanted $700 cash, and then the truck left. It was terrible. Literally, my wife was crying, and we almost lost all of our. It was crazy. And there are a lot of ups and downs, and probably the hardest ups and downs is when you put your own children at risk and danger. When we moved here, we knew, obviously we're religious Zionists, and we knew that our kids, Meir Hashem, Mr. Shem, they shouldn't have to serve in the army, but we knew they would. And Yaakov was my first child. And Yaakov had gone through the whole Sadir and the fun thing, and he was in Kfir, and we knew that meant, not so easy, but basically it was okay. He was on the border of Lebanon for his, for the beginning of his Sadir training. Everything was fine. And then October 7th happened. And we all, because it was Shabbos, we all didn't know what was going on, and everything, and what happened? We actually had a family that was eating over at a house from America, from Teaneck. They were crying and they were sad, and so the husband, who was a little bit more grounded, he said to me, "Do you think this is bad and serious?" And we had no idea, except for a lot of sirens. And I said to him, "Here's how I'll know it's serious. If my son comes home from yeshiva, which means he drove, we'll know it's very..." And the door opened. First, my wife thought it was a terrorist because everybody else was home already, and it was him. And then we knew it was serious. And my son whispered to me, "Abba," he said, "it's really, really bad." Because of course they had been knowing what was going on. And at that point, they didn't even know. They thought there was 100 people dead at that point. On one hand, it's the greatest bracha in the world, and Hashem should keep all of our soldiers safe. And my son's safe, who's still in the army, back in Miluim for a third time, whatever it is. It's the greatest accomplishment in my life to say that my son is able to serve the country and do. And unfortunately, we have close friends who lost their lives, been Yamin Hashem Gandamo, and from our own yeshiva, and injured soldiers. And I think every single day, as I dedicate my lessons from the Lev to Benji, I should have a complete refuah shlema. So we've experienced it, but there's nothing like Eretz Yisrael on one hand. Right. And moving here and feeling this divine hug, all the people have said this. It's just there's something so special about it and so unique in the stories I hear from the early family, and it's amazing. I would never reconsider the choice that we made. I have a son now in Yeshiva Gavo and Eli who wants to go into special unit. I get it. I know the risk there. I would not change it for $1 million. I think it's the greatest chus that I could have. Honestly, I wish after the Ministry of Defense I could serve in the army. I could have done something. I wish I can contribute in a bigger way. But I don't think there's, it's a great question. And the Aliyah dream is, a dream, sometimes looks like a nightmare sometimes. But at the end of the day, I think we're doing what the Rebbe Shalom wants us to do, the Derech Hashem. And, there is a really important concept, what does Hashem want of me? The famous Rav Ahron Wasserman's line, right? Is this Ratzon Hashem? And I really think that this is the Ratzon Hashem. He wants us to be here and figure out how to get here. Is it easy? No. Have I had easy ways in it? No. Or sometimes I have to go to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm still working, and I have to wake up at 6 o'clock because I'm taking kids. Yeah, but okay, that's fine. And do I get my mail a month after? Yeah, I get it. And now, I the same day I get the letter that says that this is the electricity is due. I get another letter saying it's being shut off because they didn't reach us up. Okay, we figure it out together. And those are small little things. Baruch Hashem, we're living the dream, and it's truly the dream.
Yeah. Like you said, Israel is a very special place. When I think it was October 1st when Iran sent the 180.
Well, this October.
This October.
Yep.
No, I would me and 2 other Lev guys were on the bus back from the mall, and I would turn to my friend, just like, "Oh, it'd be crazy if we get sirens for the first time." And I open my red alert and I see that half of Israel is covered in red.
Yeah.
So I turn to the guy on the bus. Kol Beseder, like, "Yeah, everything's fine."
Right.
As the sirens go off, everybody starts flipping out. So we end up we're in the middle of Beit Shemesh. There's no miklat, there's no mamad. So you run into an apartment. But after everything, there was this old woman, and she invited us all into her house, gave us water, offered us food, and offered us to stay there.
Israel.
I don't think that would have happened in America. I spent a lot of time thinking about that, but this is Israel. It's the Jewish people.
I'll tell you the story. Right before we moved, I was traveling and was with actually somebody else, and his tire went flat, meaning it blew. The tire blew. It was very, very dangerous. Baruch Hashem, we got to the side. And he all of a sudden became like a different person. He was nervous. I'm like, "Oh, we're going to do it." I'm like, "Dude, do you have AAA?" AAA. Okay, of course, AAA says we'll be there in 3 hours. And then a truck pulls up in back of us, a white truck. I always remember this. But I'm like, he's like, "Oh crap! Oh my god! This is we've seen this movie, and he was nervous like anything." Turned out a chassid came out, and he's like, "I fixed your tire," and he fixed it. It was an amazing Satmar chassid and whatever. But in Eretz Yisrael, you can get into a car accident, you could scream this and that. I bet you at the end of the day we're going to hug each other, and we're going to say the most important word in Hebrew, achi, because at the end of the day we are brothers. And I guarantee you, don't try this, please. But if you go on to 38 and you pull over and pretend you have a flat tire and put your hazards on, within a minute or two, somebody will pull over and ask you if you want help. And this happened to me here in Eretz Yisrael. That's the achi mentality, and you're not going to have that anywhere in the world. And that's very, very special about Eretz Yisrael. At the end of the day, they're Israeli, and Israelis are Israelis, and they're Middle Eastern, and I've dealt with them in other business functions that I've had with Israelis, and dealt with Middle Eastern people, and they're very similar to each other. But at the end of the day, they will close their store down to save your life. They will do anything. Look at what happened. 110% of the people return after October 7th, more than they ever thought they would get. Yeah. And I remember that video, my neighbor who was driving his son to base, and I'm not exaggerating, there were 500 cars
before the base. They were parked on the side of the road, all from people who, just to get to the base, people who weren't called. We have a neighbor who snuck into the unit. They wouldn't let him in, and he snuck in and he got in. What country? Israel. Who does that? All for one reason: to be able to go in there and to find, it's just an amazing thing. And we're fighting for our survival. But this is the Ratzon of Hashem. The Ratzon of Hashem is to fight the war. Sometimes it's hard to say. As a Rebbe, I'm saying this. Sometimes you have to put the Torah on the side and say, this is what Hashem wants of us now. We need to fight. It's hard. My son says this all the time. I made Rabbi Soloveichik cry when he came here, and I showed him. I said, I want to show you my son's Gemara. And I showed him the Gemara that he learned, about Metzia, and he said, it's beautiful. It's everything written on the side, and so on and so forth. And I said, I want to show you something else. And I showed him the Gemara Baba Basra. And I said, Rebbe, what do you see different here? This is empty. Do you know why this is empty? Because this is the Gemara they were learning Chorov Zman, which never happened after October 7th. My son couldn't learn, but you think my son doesn't want to learn Baba Basra? Look at Baba Metzia, look at Sanhedrin. Look what he accomplished. You think he wanted to do this? But this is what we do as Jewish people. This is the ultimate. This is it. Yeah, his Gemara is empty. Immersion Hashem will be able to finish Baba Basra another time. But that's who we are as the Jewish people. This is what we have.
Yeah.
Right? I know we think Torah is it's the most important thing, but the Torah also teaches us when we have to say to the Torah, hey, we gotta save the Jewish people now. So it's a great schos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this is it.
Yeah.
One more is it like
Last
do I get a
one.
prize or something? Like
No.
I'm the only one who completed this.
You get your first Lev HaTorah paycheck. No, that's not
No,
happening.
that's not happening. That's fine. Maybe I'll get like a Coke Zero or something.
Alright, so
Okay.
Carolina
Okay.
Reaper.
I have a nice sampling.
Yeah? We're going right in for it.
5, 4, 3.
Yeah.
I got quite the amount.
I'd say this is decent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now I'm a little worried that I hear water makes
It worked.
really spicy things worse.
Listen, it's
Those are manly whimpers. Oh wow. There's a point where it just
keeps on going.
it's just like you get like
wow.
it's like if someone were just like threw a pencil just like at your
By the way, when Israelis put an azhara, you know there's a reason for it. Wow.
Costa Ricans, I think, actually. But yeah.
I don't think they put.
Oh my god.
And literally, this doesn't help at all. No. We can't do any more questions. We're done.
No, we got
Oh, they gotta start asking now.
rabbit fire.
You need me to ask it?
No, I got.
Wow. This is really kol hakavod to end with this.
Yeah.
We should read this.
Oh, come on, if you can answer this.
Breathing hurts.
I know.
I think there might be a heter for milk here. There may be a heter. It's only chicken.
I think I'm gonna break-
Come on, guys.
Expired almond milk coming out. I
You
forgot.
actually?
Yeah.
Oh, I would not do that. It's expired.
Or like 7 days, it's chill.
No!
Doesn't help, does it? Might
No.
not help at all.
You're definitely.
Wow.
It definitely takes the edge off, but it's like a little bit worse after. So, in your experience, in your experience,
I don't know what you're saying.
in your experience with 5 Star Catering, you've likely encountered complex kashrut and halachic dilemmas. Can you share
Good thing you have your glasses.
a
I'm
particularly
dying to rub my eyes, and my whole body's saying yes. And Baruch Hashem, Rav Shimshon saying no.
Can you share a
Shimshon was trying his best not to laugh.
Can you share a particularly challenging situation and the innovative solution you employed to uphold halachic integrity while meeting practical needs? Do you want me to repeat that?
No, I got the point.
Oh, you got it.
I work in a catering company, and a lot of halachic shilas do come up. And Baruch Hashem, we're under the OU, so we don't have many issues. Is there like a fire department we could call? Because I'm on fire here.
I've never
My
felt
lips,
like
my lips are on fire.
I feel
I
I've
feel like
never
I put on
felt
the wrong lipstick.
Hey, it hurts to breathe.
yeah, my ear. I've never felt like ears that melt. It really feels like.
Hamada, maybe?
This is the opposite of Meir Hop, actually. This is how the downstairs must feel.
Yeah, they must make you just drink this all day. So this question is not supposed to make me cry, but
It was making me cry.
okay, so
So beautiful.
we're under the OU. So Baruch Hashem, we have good mashgichim. Unfortunately for the OU and the mashgichim, I know a lot of halacha. So oftentimes I will compete with them, and I'll try to get a solution to something. One great solution I once had is that we did a shavuos through YU, and Rav Shachter was there, and I get the OU to sign off that Rav Shachter is the posek of the OU, so he can sign off on anything. I knew some of Rav Shachter's Hateirim, so I was able to get around some OU policies because Rav Shachter paskin differently, not even b'shas al-chak, whatever, different things. Integrity is important, and if we do something wrong, we admit it.
Right.
Maybe this is not the right thing to say, but speaking about spicy sauces, this summer I was in the kitchen. There was nobody there, and I made myself, as you know, I don't have wings, but I made myself delicious schnitzalonim, and I needed a sauce with it. So I took one of the famous Baby Ray sauces. I'll be honest with you, I never heard of it before, and because of that, I wanted to see, and I looked at it carefully, and I didn't see the OU. I thought all Baby Ray's was kosher, and it was a mistake. Actually, we got it delivered, and we were able to prove this to the OU. The delivery was of the barbecue sauce, and they didn't have it. It happens to be a Jewish company, and they gave us the wrong thing. And thank God I didn't use it. And I was about to Google it, and then I looked on the back, and I saw it had on it beef fat, and I knew it was very, very bad. So I could have just thrown it out and not told the OU and kept the mashgiach wasn't like he was in another room. It's integrity, and we had to kasher a lot of things, and it was nobody's fault, and new policies were put into place, and it was annoying. As a frum person, I'm telling you, it was annoying, but this is what you do to keep halacha.
Right.
And we probably lost a good few $100s, and not that I asked a shala, but when I called my boss right away and I said to him, new, he's like, what do you mean new? Just call the OU, tell them what happened. Of course. And it meant a lot to us, and I was like, they try to make it our fault. It's integrity. There's no shala about that. And there's been other types of scenarios, and if we catch something, so on and so forth. And if there was a bishul shiloh or there was a Shabbos shiloh with bishul, so on and so forth, yeah. So you go to the customer, you say, listen, we're sorry, but we can't have the shalom.
Right.
I'm sorry because that's the way that it is, and people understand that we adhere to halacha to the point. It's important. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says the word halichos olam, halichos halachos is a famous thing we say when we say in telecom here in Eretz Yisrael every single day. Because our life is supposed to be halicha. Halacha is supposed to be halicha. It's walking ways. Yeah, you may lose hundreds of dollars because of the children. Now you have to give them a discount. And we had a kasher, all these new things, and so on and so forth. So we lost probably $1,000. Halichos olam. Because that shows you that God's always on your mind, and you're going to follow His ways, even if it doesn't make sense to you. You still follow His ways. That's what life is all about.
Much
Okay.
appreciated. Wait, that's
Yeah.
it. You don't have. Let's combine all them now and try not get.
Yeah,
I mean,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'm done. I can't believe I lasted.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, impressive.
Thank you.